Hi and welcome to Conversations with Robyn. Today's guest is a man who has had a profound effect on the spiritual awareness of millions of people on this planet. He's written something like 20 books and he's in Australia at the moment promoting his movie Conversations with God. Please welcome Neale Donald Walsch.
Thank you, Robyn. It's lovely to be here.
And thank you, Neale, for coming on the program.
You're very kind to ask me. Thank you.
It's actually quite an honour. Our guests on Conversations with Robyn have always been amazing. They're people that do great work in the world.
I'm sure that's true.
And having read a number of your books, there are just so many questions to ask you.
Well, ask away.
Okay, firstly though, what's the response that you've had from audiences that have seen your movie?
Well, you know, it's a difficult question to answer. Nobody comes up to me and says, I hated the film. So I really don't have any way of knowing objectively, but subjectively, people seem to love it. They seem to be touched by it. They seem to feel that it brings a very important and meaningful message, a message that has touched their lives deeply. And I'm very, very grateful for that, profoundly grateful.
Okay. How accurate is the film to that part of your life? Because I noticed at the end of the movie that it says about obviously you've had to honour people's identities, etc.
Sure.
How true is it to your journey, that part of your life?
I think what's on film is very true. I don't think that it shows, as the movie indicates, everything that there could be shown during that period of my life, because there's much you can put into a movie, but only so much people will watch. In other words, you've got to get the movie done in 120 minutes or something of that nature or less. This is, I think, a 111-minute film, roughly. And so you reach a point of diminishing returns where people simply aren't going to sit there any longer, unless it's a major epic with lots of action. So what's on screen is, by and large, exactly what happened. Now, in a few instances, some of the characters in the movie and some of the scene sequences were kind of crushed together, a bit squinched together, because, for the same reason. You couldn't take all the characters that people your life or mine and put them on an hour-and-a-half film, because there'd be characters flying all over the place and you wouldn't be able to tell anyone from anyone else. So sometimes we've taken one or two characters and squinched them into a single person, or 3 or 4 characters, and done that in order to get across the essence of what happened there. That wasn't done a lot in this film, but it was done, I think, in 2 or 3 cases. Most of the individual characters are people that I actually interacted with in the ways that I did. What happened, Robyn, is that the screenwriter sat down with me for about 3 or 4 days initially, and then through the months he would come back to Ashland, where I live. He lived in Los Angeles, and interview me again, and he got many, many hours of tape comments on my life and what happened then, what happened then, and asking me all about the sequences of my life. And then he went back down to Hollywood, and he wrote his first draft of the script. I had a chance to review that, and had a chance to review all the drafts of the script to make sure that nothing was in the movie that was either manufactured or exaggerated or strained credibility. But in the 1 or 2 places where they played just a bit with the sequencing, I'll give you an example. The scene in the movie where I signed the contract, where I agreed to the terms of the book, that did take place at an airport.
From the million to the $1.5 million?
Yes.
Wow.
That did take place at an airport, but it took place at an airport conference room rather than an airport restaurant. But the director said, you know, conference rooms are not very sexy to put on film. We could just 4 walls and a couple of glasses on the table. We can't film there. It's going to be nothing. We've got to have some visual content. Can we move that? They asked my permission. Can we move that same scene into a restaurant where at least we have some waitresses going by and some glasses tinkling and some sense of life happening, rather than a dead, quiet conference room? I said, sure. In addition, the sequencing was crunched down because the next offer came the next day.
From the $1 million to the $1.5 million.
We actually left the table, and I actually got on a plane and went away. And the next day, the character of the Sharon Parker character called back and said, you know, $1.5 million. And so but we had to place that counter offer right there in the same sequence, because it just dramatically doesn't work. So those kinds of small licenses for artistic effect that don't change really the content so much as just some of the sequencing. Movies do that, and they have to do that, or you'll never get any story ever made.